All right, for this next one, I'm going to be couching yarn again, but this time I'm doing more yarn embroidery instead of, last time I just did it for like quilting, just, you know, an open pattern, but this time I'm going to do more of a solid filled in design, so a little bit different. And I'm using the embroidery foot. It's a free motion foot with just a smaller hole instead of the yarn couching foot, because the yarn I'm using I think is too fat for my yarn couching foot. So I'm gonna try this and see how it goes. I drew a bit of an outline of a sheep on here, but mostly I just need to kind of scribble it around until I fill in my area. And you can go over it again, but you don't want it, you know, super thick. So I kind of go around the outside first here. Oops, not always catching. There we go. Drew a little bit of a face on there too, so I'm trying not to cover that up, but it's super messy looking, but that's actually okay. Get done and you feel like there's a hole, you can go back and fill it in. There's a little spot there. I just go here a bit. Okay, then when you're ready to stop, just cut it with a little tail and then just keep going until you run out. All right, so there's my sheep body. Cut off that tail at the beginning, and now I'm going to give him a face and some feet, so I need to switch threads. Okay. Go get my tail out of there right now. That's kind of the outline, and then I'll just go fill it in. Okay, and when I'm ready to be done, all right, and then I'll give him a couple little feet, and then maybe he'll actually look a little bit like a sheep, but it's pretty cool. Fun technique. Beth Ann Nemish is the queen of this technique. She's done amazing stuff, so I will link that somewhere too. I'm still not really sure how to manage all the links I want to connect to these videos, but I'll figure it out. All right, my little sheep might need a tail too, but isn't he just so cute? Really fun technique. Now that I've switched feet, I can show you which one I was using. Let's see if you can see that. It has a very small opening in this one, but I've switched now to one with a bigger opening, just kind of the regular closed toe. I think I have another similar one here. Closed toe, but with a bigger opening, because I'm going to be couching some weird stuff here. Same process as with the yarn. And I just saw this one recently online. I had never seen this before. So I'm kind of experimenting. I did play with it just a little bit. This is a strip of silk from a silk skirt that I got for the purpose of cutting up. And I'm going to try that first. And then I'm going to try a couple other kinds of fabric also. So crazy, crazy stuff here. To thread this through the thing, I'm going to use these dental floss threader things again, because I need my fabric to be going into that hole. So get that in there and pull it through. All right, I don't want it to be too much extra, and I could trim it off after I get started, but what I'm going to try to do here is just make some little roses, because this, you know, is just very big and messy, so you can't do something super detailed, but these look super cool. All right, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep the fabric kind of ahead of where I'm going, because that did seem to make a difference with this process. So if I'm going backwards that way, but I'm just gonna go around in circles and try to keep the fabric. So I can't, like, I could wrap it around, but I don't want to go around the back. So I can just go around the front like this, and that's fine. It works completely fine. And you can make it as tight or loose as you want. But it's, yeah, making a rose. Definitely unusual, something I had never seen until recently. The person who I saw doing this, I can't pronounce her name at all, but I will try to link that. If I want to go back over it a little bit, I can. And again, when you get to the end, in this case, I would cut it at a bit of an angle. At least try to. And then just keep going until you run out. You can even go back over it to nail that down. And we have a silk rose with some crazy colors. All right, I'm going to try another one here. This time, I'm going to try some chiffon. So super thin, but I've cut this one fairly wide because it is really thin. It's more than 1 inch wide, but you know, you could experiment with different widths of it too. You wouldn't want it any wider than this, I wouldn't think. Oops. Hard to get it in there. There we go. So I don't want too much of a tail. Anchor it down a little bit, and then maybe I'll just try to go over my tail. And I'm just going to do the same thing. Just try to keep the fabric ahead of my needle. The main way that this can go wrong is if a little flap of the fabric ends up outside of your foot and the needle goes through it, then your foot is caught between the fabric and there's nothing for it but to just cut it out of there. So you probably could still cover up that spot, but it would be a messy spot. But once I tried this a few times, I kind of got the hang of it, and that quit happening so much. At first, it did. Oh, now I'm running into my hoop. All right, well, anyway, getting the idea. So, this one looks cool too. I'm gonna cut that at an angle. And turn this a little bit so I can not run into my hoop. All right, another flower. Kind of messy looking, but cool. Something I've definitely never seen before. And for my last trick, I'm going to try the same thing again, this time with a strip of batik. And because batik is denser, it's not nearly as thin as chiffon and silk, I cut it much narrower. So look at this. I'm just going to leave whatever thread is on there, and it won't match, but that's okay. All right. Oh, come on. I need at least a little bit. Did I just do it to myself already? Nope, I didn't. This one doesn't feed through the foot nearly as well because it is thicker. Again, I'm just trying to point the fabric in the direction that I plan on going next. Yeah, it's a little jerky because the fabric is thick and it doesn't always pull through smoothly, even at this thinner size. But it is working. Except that one didn't catch there. Another very tedious one. But cool. So I'll just end this one too. That's kind of a weird shape, but and if you had matching thread, then you could nail that down better. But there we go. 3 crazy fabric roses with the free motion foot. So I was kind of blown away when I saw that because I hadn't ever seen anything like it. So super cool. All right, for this one, I'm going to sew first and talk later, and I'll explain why in a minute. Strings out of the way. I'm also going to let's see. Yeah, I think that's it for now. All right, so I'm sewing on birch bark, which is a little bit tricky for several reasons. One, it dries really, really, really fast. So I went and cut this off of a tree that was down anyway for firewood. I don't ever cut them off of live trees. I think you even can without actually hurting the tree, but that just seems hard to believe. Anyway, we don't usually do that, but we have plenty of trees that we're cutting for firewood anyway. So as long as it's still on the tree, the tree can be cut for a few months. I don't even know how long. But once you peel it off the tree, you really have like minutes to work with for this project. So it's not really for everyone, but I think it's kind of fun. I'm working on a little hair thing, so the stick fell out. Hopefully you can see that. So I made this one a few years ago, and a friend carved the stick for me, but that was before my husband was carving. So, but you can also use just a dowel. Here's another one that I made just out of fabric, and that's just a dowel that I sharpened in the pencil sharpener and painted. Obviously it needs a new paint job. This one's got yarn couching and beads, and they're really super fun and pretty easy to make. So, but with birch bark, you can stitch on it, but it's basically paper. So you just want to make sure your stitches are not too close together, or you'll just, perforate the fabric. Mine actually has a hole in the center where I went in a lot of times, but I'm going to put a button there anyway. So, and I'm going to put this on another layer of something. In fact, I wish I would have done that before I stitched around the hole. Sometimes I stitch around the holes to reinforce them, but if I wasn't going through another layer, I don't think that really did me any good. But anyway, and I've got a little bit of tearaway stabilizer here, but I've tried this a couple times, and I really had to peel this down pretty thin. If I had too many, birch bark has lots of layers, and if it had too many layers, it didn't want to cooperate. But so anyway, kind of a fun little thing. I'll finish that up so you can see what it's going to look like. But that's definitely an unusual material. So let me show you a couple more unusual materials. That's kind of my theme for this segment. But this one's definitely the most unusual, and I could rearrange my videos, but I just did it first because I needed to do it quick after I peeled it off the tree. So I've also got some Craftex here. Craftex is basically paper. It's a heavy paper, but it has the ability to, if you get it wet and scrunch it up and work it a little bit and then let it dry and wrinkle it and, you know, just kind of work it. I think some people even throw it in the washing machine. It's very durable, even though it's basically paper. It ends up looking a lot like leather. So I have one here that I've started, and I'm not sure if you can really tell by looking on the video how different the texture is now on this one, because this one's been soaked and scrunched and worked a little bit. So it's very different from the original in feel and look, but I'm not sure how well that will come across in the video. So I'm going to do the same thing on here. Looks like my thread was shredding a little bit. So I'll throw that again. I think I got about as much as I was going to get out of that. I had birch bark. All right, I'll just do the same design here. Do that sooner this time. I'll probably put a button in the center of this one also, and I already did a decorative stitch around the outside with the regular foot. Any kind of unusual materials, it's going to be a little bit easier to work with if you're using the regular foot, because that's kind of just holding everything down and stabilizing it. Although this one didn't want to feed very well through the machine either, because it's kind of slippery, so I had trouble with that also. And I will probably put something behind these to back them and then cover up my messy back. Not actually sure what yet. I have to think about that for a minute. I think in this one I used buckram and then felt. So it's got felt and batik fabric, and I cut the shape out of buckram, which is what they use to make hats. It's kind of a stiff mesh thing, but it's got something on it so where you can get it wet and then shape it a little bit, and then when it dries it'll stay in that shape a little bit better. So I think that's what I put on the inside. So I just wrapped the batik around that and then covered up the messy edges with a piece of felt. So, and then I probably did the stitching before. Well, no, some of it goes, yeah, it looks like it goes through pretty much. So anyway, they're really fun to make. And I have one more unusual material, and that is cork fabric. So there's lots of cork fabric around right now, and that's really fun too. It's really fun to work with, and more cooperative probably than either of these other things, because it is actually fabric. It has it's cork, but it has a fabric backing. So you don't have to worry quite as much about perforating it. It's a little more durable. Very creative today, but button in the center of all of these, but this one didn't perforate in the middle. The Craftex one didn't do too bad either. But you can definitely see the holes for sure on the birch bark and the Craftex. Probably the cork too. You only get one shot. Like it's gonna, you know, the needle is going to leave holes if you goof. So I drew an outline of my shape on here, but I left more of it on because it's just easier to hold on to. And I put a little bit of tearaway stabilizer underneath it, and I will tear that off now. Back looks, oh, my tension's crazy. Maybe I'll put something fusible on the back of that because the tension went haywire. To get that to, I'm not sure what happened there, actually. Did it do it on here too? Yes, it did. Well, okay. The tension went crazy on all of them. Wow, interesting. Maybe I'll have to play with this and see what happened there. I should have just checked it after the first one because I could have just tightened the top and probably wouldn't have done that. But anyway, something to check in advance next time is the tension. These are things most people are probably not ever going to do, but I just wanted to show you that it's possible. Just sewing on some unusual things. And again, using a straight stitch foot will always make it better or easier for using unusual materials because it's just more stable. But you can do some free motion also. So I will finish these up and show you what they look like. And next week is the last week, and it's a couple of the craziest ones of all, in my opinion. There's just two, but one of them has a lot of variations. So that was all I was gonna have room for, I think. So, and then that will be it, the end of the series.